Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of News for Normies, where I bring you some of the most important news from the past week in a short amount of time. If you like this and what I do here, please hit the like button, share with your friends, subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow me on the social medias. I'll have that in the comments section below. And if you're following on YouTube, thank you. I would rather see those numbers go up on Rumble because YouTube, in my opinion, needs knocked down a peg or two. But, got to go where the people are. So, with that being said, let's get into the news. And we're going to start with a little bit of international news first. Because we got a lot of stuff to cover about domestic news. So, last week, Germany held an election, and the results of that election showed that younger voters actually swung more right than beforehand. We've kind of seen this all over the world in the last couple elections. I think like Italy and France, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that one. All over Europe, they're seeing more people leaning toward their respective right parties. Probably because people are tired of their countries bringing in refugees en masse that cause problems that weren't, really big problems beforehand. Speaking of this, a 19-year-old Syrian refugee was arrested because he allegedly stabbed a man outside the Holocaust Remembrance Museum in Berlin. So, seems like they got a bit of a Lake and Riley situation on their hands with that. So yeah, when you just let a bunch of barbarians in and they start causing problems, people are going to get fed up with it. Just saying. So, coming back to the States here, 2 Texas ranchers were killed in Mexico, just south of Brownsville, Texas, by an IED. So where this happened was just over the border in Mexico, south of this little town in Texas. It is suspected that one of the cartels there was behind the placement of this explosive device, but not much has come out about this, which is kind of weird. But we've seen that the U.S. is ramping up enforcement on the border, as well as Mexico's government, if you want to call it that, sending their own troops to the border. But at this point, I wouldn't care if like the entire U.S. military went into Mexico like it was Normandy. People are dying because of IEDs on the U.S.-Mexico border. In my opinion, that's an act of war. But, I'm just a dude complaining on the internet. I'm going to pause for a second and address something. I don't know why the camera is kind of glitching like it is. This is just a webcam hooked up via USB cable. Don't know what the issue is. I apologize if it's annoying you. It's annoying me. I see it as I'm recording. Not sure what's going on. That's actually a perfect segue into this next story about technology stuff. A fake AI video was circulating this week that portrayed Donald Trump Jr. saying that we should have been giving weapons to Russia this whole time instead of Ukraine. Again, let me say that again. It was a fake video generated by an AI source that portrayed Donald Trump Jr., the son of the sitting president, saying we should have been sending weapons to Russia over the Ukraine war. Once the video started picking up some steam, people online were trying to scrub it from the internet, like deleting it from their own accounts and stuff. But we all know that the internet lives forever. So I'm sure it's still out there if you want to find it. I'm not going to because it's abhorrent. And stuff like this terrifies me going forward because AI technology is only getting better by the day. And something like this could result in very dire consequences in the future. These videos right now are almost indistinguishable from real video. What's going to happen a year, 5 years from now when you have, the Prime Minister of Israel saying, we're gonna officially go into Gaza and push everybody into the sea and claim it as our own territory. Like, something like that could spark a major international crisis. So I am usually one that's against regulations of stuff, but this is one that might need to be reined in a little bit. But at the same time, once the genie's out of the lamp, I don't know if you can get him back in. So who knows? We'll see how this goes going forward. Speaking of international incidents, man, this was funny. President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance held a meeting with Ukrainian President Volodomyr Zelinksy at the White House yesterday, as I record this. And it ended in basically a shouting match between Trump and Vance against Zelinksy. And he was essentially kicked out of the White House for being, quote, disrespectful, end quote, and argumentative. You can find video of this very easily. There's like a 49-minute long video if you want to watch the whole thing. There's shorter segments of it that have been chopped down to about 10 minutes where things kind of got heated. You can also find that. But at the end of the day, this is a very bad look for Ukraine and will probably mean an unfavorable end of the war for Zelensky. It would not surprise me if he ends up getting ran out of the country. Also, I cannot confirm this completely. I just saw a thing pop up yesterday on Instagram, but there were some, according to this, and take that with a grain of salt, some high-level politicians in Ukraine were basically calling to have like an emergency election to try to vote out Zelensky from power. So as it stands right now, it looks like the end of Zelensky's reign is coming to an end. Alrighty. So, last week I talked about Kash Patel being confirmed as the director of the FBI, but Trump has also named him to be the director of the ATF as well. This is interesting. To my knowledge, this has never been done before, but I didn't really look into this a whole lot either, so I'm not sure if this is a first time in American history or not. But what I'm getting at is, Kash Patel is one for getting the bullshit out and restructuring things to make them work for the American people, not against them. So hopefully this will, result in the rolling back of unconstitutional gun laws and decrees from the ATF. Speaking of that, a little tangent here. I'm recording this on Saturday, March 1st. Yesterday, February 28th, marked the anniversary of the Waco siege by who other than the FBI and ATF, that resulted in the death of over 80 women and children, along with David Koresh, when the building caught on fire after they tried to use like CS gas or something to get the people to come out. Now, David Koresh, not a good dude, but the FBI and ATF had opportunities to arrest him when he was away from the compound he was staying at, and they chose not to. So, in that regard, I put all of the blame on the FBI and ATF for that. Similar to Ruby Ridge, they could have arrested the guy when he was out in town getting groceries and stuff, but instead they decided to have an armed standoff that resulted in women and kids dying. So, again, this is why I say these organizations don't need to be restructured. They need to be abolished because they are a stain on this country. Okay, rant over. So Kash Patel, he is the top dog at the FBI. His second in command, the deputy director of the FBI, is now Dan Bongino. If you're not sure who he is a prominent right-leaning podcaster, but he also is very credentialed for this job. The very thing that lefties say, oh, he's not qualified. He's absolutely qualified. He was a police officer in New York for a while, and then he rose up to be a Secret Service agent under the Obama administration, and now he is the second in command of the FBI. So, this is a very bad day for corrupt bureaucrats in D.C. who have had cushy jobs infringing on the rights of Americans for far too long. Can't wait to see some job postings come up. Not that I'm applying for them, but, it's going to make me laugh. Okay, so Graham Allen has been asked to take on a role in the Pentagon to curtail woke bullshit from within the structuring of the military. If you're not familiar with Graham Allen, he's also a prominent right-leaning podcaster and influencer, I guess, on social media. He served in the U.S. military for a while, and he also ran for office out of South Carolina, but unfortunately did not win that race in 2022. This seems like a bit of a step up, though, because now he can directly influence stuff within the military. Who better to oversee military stuff than somebody that served in the military? Especially someone like Graham Allen, who, to my knowledge, never rose to ranks of officer and then got entrenched in all of the interpolitical bullshit that goes on with the military like that. So he's definitely one that could go in and be like, that's bullshit, that's bullshit, that's bullshit, we're done. So again, I like to see this too. Whew, okay, so I have to issue a little correction for something I said last week, and I'm going to address it here, about the Epstein Files. Now, if you're watching this, I'm sure you've seen this already, but I do this for the normies who don't pay attention to the news all the time. So, last week I said that Pam Bondi had the Epstein Files on her desk and was going to release them immediately. I was incorrect in that, because this whole thing seemed to be a huge bungle for Pam Bondi and the Trump administration. It took almost a week for them to release anything, and the official release seemed to be more of a PR stunt than anything else, as there were several right-leaning influencers at the White House who were essentially surprised with binders full of the information and stood there for a photo op, but nothing really major came out about this. So, at this point, people like myself are thinking, what are you hiding? And it seems very heavily that they are trying to protect people that maybe the right likes or something. I don't know. It seems like they're still trying to cover the ass of certain people, and, not make too big of a splash, but that's not what we wanted. Release all the names on there. Let us have that information. We will decide what we want to think from there. Also, this is weird, but Pam Bondi ordered Kash Patel to release all information on Epstein to her office, which is weird because we were under the assumption that she already had that information anyway. So, what is going on here? Also, while all this stuff was going on, the FBI office in the Southern District of New York has essentially gone rogue and refused to work with Pam Bondi on all the Epstein stuff. So, again, it seems like people are really trying to cover the ass of some people, and or they're trying to kick this can further down the line and deal with it later. But you've already kind of let it slip. What are we waiting for? Just release the names or get the fuck out the way. That's just putting it lightly. Yeah, so this was a bad look for Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and the Trump administration as a whole. Okay, Doge be dogin'. Elon Musk sent out another mass email to all federal employees requesting them to justify their work or face being fired. And I find this kind of funny because people are freaking out about this, but in the real world, if you don't produce results at work, you get fired. If I was to just clock in and not make good parts in my machine, I wouldn't have a job. So, the email requested that people list 5 things they did in the past week. And I'm sorry, but if you can't list 5 things you did in 1 week in an email, your job is literally useless. It is not that hard to type out an email to say, oh, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this, and I did this. Like, I can think of 5 things in a day. Like, it just boggles my mind how these people are freaking out about this. Now, there is a little bit of a catch on this because Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel had to also email their respective agencies / departments to not respond if they're working on classified or secretive work, stuff that could actually be a detriment to national security. Like if say like the CIA is tracking down a top level terrorist over there in the Middle East, like, don't really want to put that out there in the world because we don't want to have a Bin Laden situation where he goes into hiding for 20 years and all that work is just done. So I don't know. This has all been kind of funny to me. But speaking of all this, apparently 2,000 people employed by USAID have been placed on administrative leave, which has resulted in the organization working with a skeleton crew at this point. But like I've talked about in the last couple weeks, after all the information that's come out about USAID and how they've been abusing our money, I have no sympathy for these people. When you're trying to spend $17 million on an LGBT puppet show in Guatemala, like, I'm sorry. When people here in this country are hurting because of natural disasters or whatever the case may be, but you're spending $17 million on stupid shit like that, no sympathy. None at all. And again, no sympathy for these people either. The IRS is planning to shutter over 100 locations nationwide, and yet again, the Democrats are acting like the sky is falling. Honestly, I don't know anybody, left, right, or center, that actually likes the IRS. And like I talked about last week, if you really think that the 87,000 additional employees to the IRS are going to go after the ultra-wealthy, the same people that donate to politicians and their PACs and stuff like that, and not you, then you need to be put in a loony bin because you are literally insane. They're not going after the ultra-wealthy because the ultra-wealthy get kickbacks from the politicians. They're going after you. So, to put a finer point on this little story, if the Democrats keep advocating for the thieves that keep stealing our money, they're going to lose the midterms next time and possibly the next presidential election too. And again, I'm sorry for the glitchiness with the camera. I have no idea what's going on with this thing. Okay. If mom or grandma, if you are watching, you might want to fast forward a little bit here because this next story is gross. So if you have your kids watching or listening with you, you are warned this next little thing is not safe for little ones to hear, okay? You have been warned. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So a text chat has been leaked from NSA employees this past week, where these people were talking about sexual kink topics, some of which bordered on self-harm for sexual gratification. Very much into like extreme, I guess, BDSM type stuff, if you will. Yeah. Now, what people do in their free time, you do you, boo-boo. Whatever. If nobody is being hurt severely or whatever, whatever. However, when it's going on during company time, essentially, that's where we have a little bit of a problem. Yeah, this is just fucking insane. Yeah, so the day after this information was revealed, Tulsi Gabbard announced that all 150 people involved with this text thread would be terminated and have their security clearances revoked, which I think is a very appropriate move. If you're working for the NSA and allegedly trying to make sure the terrorist attacks don't happen, and very heavy emphasis on allegedly, but you're talking about, kink stuff and what you want to do after work, like, yeah, there's a line that needs to be drawn there. So, yeah. Speaking of crossing lines, here, these next little 3 stories are about politicians being in some hot water. So everybody's favorite Texan, one-eyed McCain, Dan Crenshaw, was on camera saying he'd kill Tucker Carlson if they ever met. And now, funny enough, because Tucker Carlson doesn't take shit from anybody, he tweeted back at Dan Crenshaw and said, "Hey, you want to come have a sit down?" And Dan Crenshaw was like, "Nah." So, I've told you how big of a piece of shit Dan Crenshaw is in the past. Yeah, he actually denied the accusation on X, but quickly got hit with a community note because you were on camera, you dumbass. It boggles my mind how he is still in office. In Texas, you need to get your shit together too, because you all keep voting for this guy. And why, I don't understand. He must have a really good propaganda campaign going for him. That was a good time to take a drink of coffee from my Defund Politicians tumbler that you can get from the Drinkin' Bros podcast store. Not affiliated with them. They're not a sponsor. I just like what they do and agree with the sentiment that politicians need to be defunded. Some of them put in jail. Okay. Another piece of shit politician, Senator Tom Cotton, is also in some hot water right now because it has been revealed he has been taking funds from a group called International Republican Institute. This group allegedly has ties, to human trafficking organizations that have smuggled illegal aliens into the United States. So there you go. Just because you're not Democrat doesn't mean you're not a piece of shit, as I've just laid out with Dan Crenshaw and Tom Cotton. So, again, this is why I do this stuff, because most people don't hear about this. Last little piece of news about politicians being in hot water. Everyone's favorite Democrat, Eric Swalwell from California, was also caught on camera admitting to abusing his power in D.C., using his power in government to cheat on his wife, and trying to subpoena Ivanka Trump because, quote, she's hot as fuck, end quote. His words, not mine. This dude also needs to be removed from office, and for blatantly admitting to abusing his power, I think he needs to face some kind of jail time for this stuff. And don't forget, too, that Eric Swalwell used to sleep with a Chinese spy named Feng Feng. He was literally banging a Chinese spy, people, and he's in our government. It's just, how do these people keep getting into power? It blows me away. Okay, ending on some good news here with these last 2 stories. Joy Reid, now former host of a show at MSNBC, has had her show canceled, even though she claimed her show, quote, had value, end quote. Apparently it didn't, Joy, because you got shit canned from the network. Viewership means value, and if you're not bringing in eyeballs, you're not bringing in money, and therefore you are not worth keeping on board. It is about time that this race-baiting fake news peddler got the boot. And I hope, I was going to say I hope she doesn't, but I hope she tries to start a podcast, and I hope it just crashes and burns too. Because these people think that they're still relevant, and they're not. We're people like me, us normies, I shouldn't call myself a normie, but the normal people are finally starting to see through the bullshit, and they're done with it. So that's why you got the boot. Sorry. And I don't have any sympathy for her either, because she's been paid millions of dollars by the network for a TV show that nobody's watching anymore. So, bye, Felicia. Okay, last one. Eli Lilly, who is a pharmaceutical products manufacturer, plans to invest $27 billion into the U.S. economy, as well as Apple, maker of the iPhone, is committing to investing $500 billion into the U.S. economy. Both companies have essentially said that they plan to build new manufacturing plants within the United States. And I think Apple was trying to invest in some kind of a academy up in Detroit to teach people the skills that Apple needs to make phones, like R&D and stuff like that. So they're trying to invest in people like you and I. I have a full-time job, so this wouldn't really affect me at all, but people that need jobs, this is great. This is awesome. I am glad to see this. And this, my friends, is what the threat of tariffs does. It makes companies who have outsourced work to overseas come back to the United States and employ Americans so that Americans can be more self-sufficient and our economy can grow and flourish again. So I'm glad to see this. I hope more companies do this too. But that is all I have for this week. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for dealing with the weird glitchiness of the video. I don't understand what's going on with that. I'm not a computer whiz, so I apologize. I hope you all have a good week, and I will catch you all next time. Thank you.